So does physics explain living, right? Physics, I think physics explains crucial aspects of directed motion, energy conversion, structure formation, biomechanics, bioelectricity, all of which are essential to understanding what living entails. You cannot understand living without understandings of physics, in my opinion. So physics is fundamental in that sense of understanding what living is. It's also continuous with molecular biology, biochemistry, cell biology. But it's not the whole explanation. You cannot reduce physics to, biology to physics. Because it adds many concepts that are not part of physics. Information processing, contingency, historical explanation, massive complexity, all these kind of things. So I want to end with this. This kind of shows you, let's see if I can do this. Shows you, you might have seen this, the biologists probably have seen this, a really nice movie done by the visualization group at Harvard about the life of a cell. And it shows you the complexity of the cell, but at the same time that there are physical processes going on which we can explain with physics. It's a really nice movie. Because we have a little bit of time, I'm going to show you that, and that's pretty much my conclusion. Hopefully this works. Okay, computer has to think. Okay, good. Oh, it's not showing anything there. It's not bright enough. Oh, you can't see it. Okay, can you do the lights? So, and let me see if my sound is switched off. Oh, it even has nice music in the background. So this is a, biologists maybe can fill in some of this stuff, but this is the basic inside of a cell, a leukocyte, which is a cell in your blood that kills bacteria. It shows all the different things. This is the cell membrane. These are inside the cell. These are actin filaments that give you the structure of the cell inside. The cell is, by the way, much more full of stuff. They had to remove a lot of the stuff so you can actually see something. They would actually show it really is in a cell. It's just stuffed full of stuff. Here's a cleaving enzyme that cleaves breaks it apart. Here's one of those microtubules or something I was talking about. Here gets taken apart again. Here's one of those walking molecules that I was talking about. Looks pretty cool. So it carries like a giant cargo here in the residue. It's just a big sack of stuff inside. Here's the I think it's a centrosome or something where those things originate. These things coming out here are those other things I've talked about that actually translate the RNA into proteins. These are ribosomes, and they're going to run along like a tape, along a tape, and just translate with it. On the left is like a protein coming out. I don't remember what this is. A mitochondrion, I think. This is the power station of your cells. Here's again the ribosomes getting disassembled. Here's some vesicles being released. Here's one of those funny walking molecules again. And people have actually visualized these. You can, you have tools now that you can actually see these things walking. Here's some stuff being released. I don't remember all of this. There's actually there's a cheat sheet for this one, so if you actually Google it, there's one that they actually annotate everything. So that's how I cheated. So. Some kind of receptors. And here's the cell again. The outside of the cell is on the inside of the blood wall, and now it's going to the blood wall and go somewhere to take care of some bacteria or something. And I think that's pretty much the end of it. But almost. So I think it's a really nice movie. So that's pretty much, that's my conclusion.
Questions, comments?
So I want to make a distinction with an analogy and then say why I'm disappointed.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's a question about the essence of something, and there's this question about its cause. So a simple little example like a lie. What's the essence of a lie? Some people say it's a falsehood told with the intention to deceive. Some people say it's what you believe is false and you tell it with the intention to deceive, and there are rival theories about what the essence is or what a bachelor is or any of those things.
Right.
And then there's a question about what causes people to lie or be bachelors or whatever. Well, I don't think you've given us any indication about what the essence of life is. You've given us two views about what rival views about the causes of what life is. But when I came, I thought you were going to address the question, what is life? And I'm disappointed.
Okay, so good. That's good. That's a good question. So, I think my point is that the physics cannot explain what life is as an essence, right? I think that's my point. My point is that physics can explain what living is. It can explain causes, and what I was. But
what is living then? You haven't given me the essence of living. I think what you said is a necessary condition of living is that there are certain things, physical things that have to go on. A
Right.
necessary condition of lying, we went to lying now rather than lie for the analogy. A necessary condition is it's a falsehood. Okay. Yeah.
Well, living is the sum total of all these things happening. I think the problem that we can't really define life or living that easily is that it entails all these different things. It's a very complex question. So what we can do is we can look at the different parts and then say, like, all of those parts together, that's what living is. Now, of course, I can give you the book definition of living, right? It's, you have metabolism and, reproduction and being basic, able to adapt to different situations and.
Because I want a definition of living that will distinguish stalactites and stalagmites from, I don't know, some simple organism that's made up of cells.
Stalactites don't have metabolism, they don't reproduce, they're not adaptable, they don't, take in energy and,
sort of taking
and create on some level, but
No
they don't create
material.
complex structures.
Well, they do. They create complex structures.
Not very complex.
Crystal.
Stalactite. It's just a crystal.
Yeah, not complex. There's no genetic material.
There's
That's
no genetic
the
material. There's no
definition of life.
information processing.
Living.
There's no
I don't believe
hereditary.
it's essential to life that you have to have genetic material. Suppose you found some place in Mars that they had something like cells that divide, and they don't have anything comparable to what we consider genetic material. I bet we'd say they're alive.
I think they would have to have something, because how could they divide and reproduce and create the same thing without having some kind of information transfer? It may not be DNA. I agree with that, but they have to have something like that to transfer the information of I have this complex structure. Obviously, it's going to have to be a very complex structure. You're going to have to be able to move around and take energy in terms of some kind of form and transform to a completely different form, transfer to a complex structure to be able to go life. So it has to have a complex structure inside, and to produce itself, it has to transfer the information about the complex structure somehow, even if it's not by DNA. It's going to have some mechanism to do that, and the stalactite doesn't have that. So even a Martian microbe, if it doesn't have DNA, it's going to have some kind of mechanism to do that.
Transmission mechanism.
Some kind of transition mechanism would have to be there. But not that.
Like an electrical system,
I mean, it could,
which would be alive on this theory.
not really. Electrical systems don't take their own nutrition and walk around in them. I mean,
But they could.
well, you could make a robot, I
A
suppose.
robot would be alive, but it would take the sun, take energy in, and you could have, in principle, produce a robot that could reproduce things like it.
Well, if you wanted to have it really work like a living being, which is also the other thing you have to. Okay, we can go for the broad definition of living and the narrow definition of living. If you go the narrow definition of living, really narrow, you're saying it's a carbon-based, blah 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 blah, based on cellular.
That's not necessary.
Yeah,
Surely that's not necessary.
But it's not necessary. If you go by the broad one, then you can get into these kind of borderline questions. Can you make a robot that can take some food and have some nano machines in it that actually can make it grow, or maybe in the future we could do something like that.
Hackman, I'm first, sure.